All right. One of the things that will happen, March 13, the window opens on trades, and it's clear that the Steelers would like to trade receiver Antonio Brown. The problem is Antonio Brown is engaged in some behaviors that could make a team not all that inclined to bring Antonio Brown to town. Most recently, news of a domestic incident from last month with allegations of misconduct directed to Brown. He allegedly pushed down the mother of one of his children, and he wasn't arrested. But the NFL told me yesterday they're looking into it.
Right.
Even though you weren't arrested, you can still get yourself suspended, as Ezekiel Elliott found out, and as Kareem Hunt eventually will learn when he gets suspended, because that video came out months after an allegation had emerged in February. So what do you do with Antonio Brown at this point, Chris? Because if I'm thinking about trading for him, I'm very leery about the possibility that out of the blue, the guy's going to get suspended or he's going to be on the commissioner exempt list. I'm otherwise not going to get my value out of him. And you can't rule out the possibility that somebody's going to sell a video to TMZ at some point.
Well, yeah, sure, certainly. I mean, and then I'll start off like right where you started. Do we know for sure that Pittsburgh definitely wants to get rid of him? I'll just say this. If I was running a football team as a GM for any of the franchises in the NFL, and as we know, I'm not, but if I was, I wouldn't touch Antonio Brown with a 10-foot pole. I just wouldn't. Not at this point of his career. I understand he's still a really good football player. I get that. He'll be 31 in July. I do, as I've told you a little bit and on air, I do think Antonio Brown's lost a step to a degree. Doesn't still mean he's not awesome, but he's still, I don't think, as explosive as he was 2 years ago, 3 years ago. He is at the age where a smaller receiver that's based on speed and quicks like himself starts to fall. It starts to go the wrong way. I understand there's a lot of production, but at the same time, this is a guy that's been a loose cannon. There's no other way to put this over the last few years. Whether it's blow-ups on the sidelines, Facebook from the locker room, what we saw this year, I just would think any GM or coach out there is going to look at Antonio Brown and go, man, do I really want to bring him here and then be accused of not having good institutional control like we talk about with Mike Tomlin, and it's really because of just Antonio Brown? So I don't know, Mike. I mean, I don't know how you feel. At the end of the day, I'm going to bet money he's right back in Pittsburgh.
Well, 4 weeks ago today, owner Art Rooney II, I think, made it clear that they were launching an auction for Antonio Brown by saying in one breath, we can't imagine any set of circumstances where he's back, and then essentially opening the door to a trade, hammering the for sale sign into the yard. The problem is I don't think they've gotten the kind of offers that they thought they would. If you can get 2 or 3 teams to the table and they start bidding each other up, you end up getting a nice return for Antonio Brown. That hasn't happened. And we touched on this last week, and Stats and I discussed this earlier in the program. The idea that Antonio Brown doesn't want to be there. And I interviewed Terrell Owens the Friday before Super Bowl week, and that didn't create a whole lot of traction because it was a Friday afternoon, and by Monday we were in Atlanta and everything reset. But Owens said he's been mentoring Antonio Brown, and I got the very clear impression from T.O. that Brown wants out. So how do you play this where the guy wants out? So the first thing you got to do is convince him to stay. How do you convince him to stay, but also vow to hold him accountable for any type of misbehavior moving forward? I don't think you can harmonize those two positions. Oh, Antonio, please, 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 please stay. Are you going to stay? You want to stay? We'll do everything we can to make you happy. Okay, good, you're staying. Now, listen, mister, you better shape up right now, or you're going to be in big trouble. I mean, you can't make those two sides of the coin work. It's impossible. So I think the Steelers have to move on. Ed Bouchette of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette has a column where he argues it's time for the Steelers to move on. And frankly, when you consider the symbiosis that often exists between the paper of record in an NFL city and the NFL team,
that's right,
it's entirely possible the Steelers asked him to do it, to lay the foundation for what's next.
Yes.
Because after this domestic violence incident now and having to worry about a possible suspension, it could be, see you later, Antonio. We don't want to get stuck paying you $13 million this year while you're on the commissioner's exempt list.
Yeah, I mean, I think that will be the big thing that goes on now is where does this investigation go? That's going to halt all procedures, all conversations, because no one's going to want to touch him if they don't know if he's going to be suspended for 3, 4 games, 2 games, whatever it may be. The other thing is this. I mean, first of all, I just look at it like this. Well, like Antonio Brown, the only place he's going to get away with some of the antics he's gotten away with to this point in his career is Pittsburgh still. Now, Pittsburgh, to your point, if they want to harmonize this, they're going to have to lay it on the line and basically say, like, listen, if you're late, we are going to fine you to the maximum amount that the league and the NFLPA and the current CBA will allow us to. That's the first thing, and it's really the only thing they're going to be able to do here. But they have managed the personality to a degree over here over the years. So I would say that. But the biggest thing, Mike, is, okay, $21 million in dead money if they let him go. If they trade him, whatever it is, that comes back to them. And $21 million, as you know, or anyone that follows the salary cap in football, that's like 3 or 4, maybe 5 quality starters on your football team. And that's hard to swallow, I think, as a front office, for an owner, for a Mike Tomlin, and any of that. So I still think that there's going to be a little bit of a slow market for him, and I think he's going to realize, man, I'm going to pain in the butt, and maybe I can make some things, amicable between the Steelers and himself once again. But I don't think anything's going to get done until this current incident gets figured out.
I've seen nothing from Antonio Brown over the last month that has made me think that he's going to take any responsibility for where things are. It's not his fault. Lies are being told about him. So he says, big interview is coming, even though we still have yet to hear when it is, who it's with, and when we'll find out about it. But here's one point as to the $21 million cap charge they will take if they move on from him. If they keep him, it's going to cost $22 million under the cap, and they're going to have to pay him $13 million. So, I mean, look, if he's on the roster and he actually costs more in cap dollars than if he's off the roster, and you have to pay him $13 million where otherwise you pay him $0, I think it's very easy to justify moving on. And I know that's a big number, but again, it's an even bigger number if you keep him. And if they're at the point where we're done with the distractions, we're done with the issues, we're done with the drama, we're just done with this guy. And you talked about fining him to the maximum. Again, he doesn't want to be there. It's back to the point I made earlier. How do you convince him to stay and then threaten to fine him anytime he's late? It's just not worth it at this point. I think they should say, hey, look, we got more than we ever thought we would get out of a guy who was a 6th-round pick back in 2010. It's our fault to a certain extent that he became who he is because we didn't squash on this when it first emerged. So we're going to say thanks for the memories. See you later. We're going to get the best deal we can. They once traded Super Bowl MVP Santonio Holmes for a 5th-round pick, I believe it was, to the Jets. It was either a 4 or a 5. I think it was a 5. So you get what you can and you move on. And I think that's what they should do. And I think it'll happen during the draft, Chris. I think that there's going to be a team that is targeting a receiver in round 1, doesn't get him, and says, all right, 3rd-round pick, 4th-round pick, whatever for Antonio Brown.
Yeah, I think that would be about the timing. I would think that would be about the time the NFL makes a statement on the investigation and things that happen there to where Pittsburgh can move them because they're going to want to answer about it, so they have a little leverage in the trade. And if you do trade him, it's going to take – I just think it teams with a coach with a strong personality and knows how to deal with personalities. That's the other thing that it's going to take as well. I think of a guy like John Gruden out in Oakland who, might want to make a splash in free agency and get a guy in there to ignite, his team, the fan base, all of that. I think about a Kyle Shanahan out in San Francisco. They certainly have the money to do it. They know how to use receivers, all of those things. But I say the same thing I said to all, to start this. I mean, it's you got to be careful with this guy right now. And I think he knows it, and that's why he's gone off radar. And I think still, just when I hear little comments from other people, we were just with Juju Smith-Schuster, right, last week at the Super Bowl. He still thinks there's a chance to salvage the relationship. I am one that I think Pittsburgh and Antonio Brown can salvage it because I just think they're both a little renegade-ish, and they'll both figure out how to make this work somehow, and it'll never be perfect. But to your point, with all the money they're going to spend to let him go, well, I'd rather pay him that money to sit there and perform for the Pittsburgh Steelers. If I'm them, I'm certainly thinking about it.
Juju also thought that Le'Veon Bell's going to be back, so I don't know that I trust Juju's barometer on player retention.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.